Hello, welcome to video number 11 in our series, Microsoft Certified Professional Developer 4.0 with ASP.NET and C#. Content exam focus is 70-515. The content is owned and created by Ravi Nanganuri, Microsoft MVP, .NET Videos.net. So video number 11, we're going to continue on with our Ajax, part 3 of our videos. You want to reference the first two videos if you not already saw those. We're going to pick up where we kind of left off with the update panels. We've showed the update panel already. There is a nuance or something you need to know when using more than one update panel. This will also be covered on the exam potentially. The ASP.NET Ajax Control Toolkit, which we can download and use either the DLL or the source code itself. We're going to demonstrate how to get that. Most people, or some people, are a little bit shy about going out and actually getting that initially and using it. It's quite easy to grab. It's actually one of the exam content pointers on for the exam. So you're going to need to know how to use the toolkit, what's in the toolkit, why would you use the toolkit, this type of stuff. So a few reasons why you would use the toolkit, and just not the built-in Ajax stuff that's already there. There is a plethora of controls, and controls being added all the time actually, where with minimal coding you can actually get some really good functionality. There's these extender controls, and this is covered on the exam as well, where you basically can extend the functionality of existing controls. And we'll show some demonstrations of that. But you begin to blur the lines with what's possible over the web and what's possible with the classic Windows development. As we move into the Web 2.0 and beyond world, it's important to understand how to leverage these various Ajax techniques. The toolkit provides a very powerful story for doing that. This is an ongoing effort. It's got Microsoft support. It's actually on Codeplex, which is a shared open source type project. But the controls are well tested. Again, there's ongoing support from Microsoft for this, so this is not something that is going to fly by night type thing. It's not going away, and again, it's part of the exam focus. So I'm going to come over here and first start with the multiple update panels and show how you would do this, and show why it's important to understand how. So if you just look at my example, I've got a script manager on the page, and I've got two update panels and simply a process button. So if we would look at the code behind, all the process button is going to do is update to datetime.now. It could be much more elegant or fancy than that. It doesn't matter for our example. The bottom line is we've got two update panels. My first update panel has the trigger here that we looked at in the previous video for the async postback, and we're pointing to the process button to be used. And we have the label inside of update panel 1. So update panel 2 does not contain the trigger, but does contain its own label. And some of the default behavior you might expect is, well, then why would the label? Why would it matter? Why would this label be updated when the button is punched when it is only in the trigger in update panel 1? So if we see this and we go ahead and run this, you see both labels are actually getting updated. Any amount of update panels we had here with the async postback for any trigger on any of those, it's going to update all controls inside of any update panels. By default, they're all going to participate in that. So that is a nuance, but there is a way around that, or a way to not use that functionality. It's via the update mode element, which you're going to want to know for the exam. By default, it's set to always. You can set that to conditional. Now, this is set at the update panel level again. It's the update mode element, and it's default to always, but you want to set it to conditional in situations where you don't want a trigger from one update panel that causes an async postback to update every control everywhere that's in every other update panel. So this is a technique when you're using multiple update panels. You should know this for the exam. You should know this for your Ajax development. You should know this if you're using update panels in general. If I go ahead and rerun this, you see I click the process button. It's just label 1 now. That's where the trigger lives, where the label lives, that's actually getting updated due again to that update mode element. Let's switch gears and let's talk about the Ajax Control Toolkit. If I went to www.asp.net/Ajax, you'll see you have a link to the Ajax library here. There's also a link to the jQuery stuff we're going to be talking about in future videos. You see the Ajax Toolkit link, and it's very simple to get off and running with this. Again, this is a huge set of controls. They also provide a sample website to get you off and running with it. And with minimal coding effort, sometimes you can really get a lot of great functionality for your web applications. It's a very simple 1 through 4 step process to get it going. All we're going to do is download it from Codeplex. Again, Codeplex is supported by Microsoft. Microsoft works with Codeplex, but there's also the community here and the open or shared source movement that helps support these controls. And you see, if you come out here, there's a lot of statistics about how many downloads are here, what the latest version is it stable or not. You're just going to go ahead and accept the user agreement, and you can go ahead and download the toolkit and for free, and go ahead and then get off and running and testing with it anyway. So if you go ahead and save this, I'm going to kind of fast forward through some of this. You save this to some location on your hard drive, you're going to end up with the DLL. Again, you could have also saved the source code, compiled it yourself. You also have this sample website, which we'll look at, which is great for getting started with the toolkit, and it basically demonstrates all the various controls that are there. So if you see here inside of the toolbox, I'm going to actually add a new tab specifically for the Ajax controls in the toolkit. I'll just right-click, do a new tab here. And this is going to be as simple as adding other toolbox items. We're just going to browse for the DLL that we had downloaded from Codeplex, and once we browse and find that DLL, which I stuck off into a directory here on my hard drive, it's going to add in a bunch of controls. And again, you're going to want to check periodically for new controls, potential fixes on existing controls, this type of stuff from Codeplex if you're using the toolkit. So you get a few controls that we've already looked at kind of out of the box with ASP.NET 4.0. I'm going to go out and add the Ajax control toolkits in, and it's simply going to very quickly, a matter of a few seconds here, basically add a laundry list of controls really that do a variety of things. Now, one of the exam topics is to understand the concept of an extender control. An extender control will take other controls like text box, button, other controls, and extend the functionality for that. Whether it's you have a button that's a combo box. One of the always visible control extender that's here, we'll demonstrate that. This will basically allow you to do something fairly fancy. If you come over, I've got the actual website that's provided by Codeplex that samples and shows you how to use these controls. And if I just look here, it's fairly straightforward to use. It's more about configuration. For the always visible extender control, which I'll show you in a minute, you see that I'm targeting a control ID. We're actually going to be using a timer control down here, and it's going to extend that timer, and it could be a different control, and we'll show how. Or basically, on web applications, when you're scrolling, you may want something to always be visible. So let's say in this case it's for the time. So I've got an application here where I've got the extender control simply tied into this timer control, and I'm just going to position this to the top left of the screen. And notice when I scroll now, that timer continues to stay at the top left of the screen. So this is achieved very easily with this extender control, which is extending the functionality of this timer. I can move it around here. It's always going to be visible. So you can get some rich UI experience and fancy experiences very quickly by leveraging the toolkit controls. You're not writing JavaScript at this point. You're not writing anything like that to mess with the DOM. It's just built directly into these controls, much like you'd use other controls. The animation control, or the animation extender control, we can look at as well. It's going to provide a very nifty-like animation experience for the web. So again, we're talking about blurring the lines, so to speak, for what's possible over the web anymore with Web 2.0. Some of this stuff is not possible without leveraging Ajaxian techniques. So I'm going to go ahead and just run this. Again, if you look at the code, we could look and take hours and hours really to go all through all these controls, but they're very easy to wire up. You come in here, you can look at the demonstrations via the sample website. When I click this button, a couple things are going to happen. We're actually going to move a control, we're going to resize it, fade, and then color it all in one click. And so again, we're just using this to extend functionality. You notice here that it happens on the screen. So if you need to achieve some of this more fancier UI stuff, it's not just about the user experience with performance, but sometimes the user experience with being a bit fancier in the Web 2.0 world with the UI stuff. Learning how to use the Ajax Control Toolkit's a great way to get started. We've also got some some actual functional things that are very useful, like controls like the autocomplete control. And if you come in here, and again, you can look at the code behind for the autocomplete control, wire it up, maybe to a database or whatnot. You see that I've got a demonstration here. You're used to autocomplete where you just start typing. So all of these Ajax controls are built into the Ajax Control Toolkit. You can also download the source code, extend these even beyond what they're doing normally, or just download them as is. And you see I start typing here. You get the classic autocomplete story now again over my web form via some asynchronous operations here. I'm not posting back to get this data, etc. So learning to use the Ajax Control Toolkit, get it installed, get it into your toolbox, and what the extender controls do, all of that's part of the exam fundamentals, and you need to know how to do it. I think we've demonstrated that here. So I'm going to use one control that's not on the sample website just to kind of show you how easy it is and where I might get some functionality beyond just fancy UI stuff. I drag and drop a toolkit script manager here, and this actually extends the functionality of the script manager, the toolkit script manager. So rather than the plain old script manager, we can use the toolkit script manager. It's got various features like script combining as well. I'm going to drag and drop a password strength control, which notice I can't drag and drop this directly on the design surface if I was to try. This is a few of the controls you're going to have to go into the actual HTML, and it's just as easy to actually hand type the control in, but you can certainly drag and drop it into the HTML as well. This is just a password strength control that I'm just going to point to my text box that I have on my form, and it's just going to let me type in a password, then indicate to me how strong that password potentially is. So this kind of functional stuff is also built into the Ajax Control Toolkit. This certainly not necessarily has anything to do with being fancy and from a UI experience, but more functional. So performance, functionality, UI, user experience stuff, that's all part of Ajax, modern Ajaxian applications. You see as I start to type into my text box here, it's telling me on the screen, okay, how weak or how strong. If I introduce an underscore here, it would tell me, okay, hey, this looks great as far as a password, etc. So I encourage you to work with the controls, work through the sample website to get more used to these controls, and take our exam practice questions at the end of this video.